in training so that we're taking the full advantage of the software. And I just liked this visual where you can see, I think we are very much on track, and we are definitely in crunch time in December. Lots happening, and January, it will be fast and furious. And we're going to probably take a little tiny breath, and we'll start on the SIS. But we will have a lot of good experience behind us, and I think that's going to be a tremendous help. Julie has been amazing and is jumping in, and her team at technology is kind of filling in on some conversations that are a little more technical and technical. We also have extremely supported, and that's been really, really nice. Really, really nice. So, do you guys have any questions?
You know what's in the news about cybersecurity? Any reassurances you can give us about this system and how secure it is?
Well, we have already implemented the single sign-on, and I don't know if you want to add to.
I was actually mentioning this to Barbara just this morning. So one of the new features that we really like about it is we've made it easier to log in by going through our single sign-on portal, and then we can actually restrict access by IP address. By using that portal when they go and click on the Skyward button, making sure we know who's going inside, kind of like the go.bryanisd site that y'all use. So that's been nice. We also had lots of conversations with the company that's hosting, and they have a lot of things that they've been implemented to ensure that security is happening. So we're already seeing good things. And then we're also in the process of rolling out Duo. Duo is that two-factor authentication, and we'll do that with any principals or district leaders that are accessing it outside of our network. So yes, we're already seeing some improvements in security.
So nothing to worry about.
100%. I always worry.
No, I know it will never be perfect, and we're seeing it all
Exactly.
over major companies. So
Exactly.
nobody, including me, is expecting a guarantee. But it is nice for the public and us to know that there's at least a real effort being made to keep it secure.
Definitely, we take it very seriously. We're supposed to protect that data, our students' information, and it can be very valuable to others, and so we take it very, very seriously.
And just, I know we have probably forgotten, it's been a while since we approved this, but remind us briefly, what are the benefits of this compared to what we've been doing in the past?
For me, that I have seen that where we have had a separate piece of software for the time clock system, a separate piece of software for applicants, we will be able to utilize those modules within Skyward, and then they connect and play nice together. And so right now, when HR they hire an applicant, a person in HR has to sit there and manually add all the information for the employee. And throughout the school year, that's totally manageable, but at some point, those numbers increase, and it's taking a lot of work to get that in. So once we start using their applicant tracking or their applicant software, then you pretty much hire them, and it slides all that applicant information over. You probably have to do some adjustments or a little bit of data entry, but it's not starting with a blank page. Same with time clock. When we begin using that, those hours and time off and things of that nature will automatically feed into the payroll process, whereas right now we're getting a spreadsheet from this, and then somebody's doing these things. So the work efficiency will be a huge benefit for us.
And reporting, I'm guessing, will be much easier than...
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of flexibility within the software to, if you're just looking at a display screen of columns of data and you go, but you know what, I wonder, how many years of experience in Bryan do they have? Then I can just add that column, and there you go. I can click one button, have a nice PDF report that I could hand to Ginger if she needed that. So the work efficiency aspect of those things, once we're up and running, I mean, right now, we're learning the system, and it might take me a little bit longer to do tasks that I can do pretty quick now, but we will absolutely get there. It's just, we have to learn the software, and we have a lot of experience with the one we're leading, and so I'm confident that everybody will get there and start to realize all of that.
Is there anything you want to add? I know you've used this in other
Yeah, I just want to thank the board again for approving this purchase, because I believe, you've said it a number of times, the efficiency is going to be profound, which consequently will improve accuracy. It will minimize human error for all the things that we're having to enter manually. And I think it will promote the ability to be more transparent, because we'll be able to get our hands on reports, et cetera, that we've not had before, so that we can put out for our public and to declare whatever information. So I'm excited. I have used this in another district, but this is the upgraded version. So I haven't even had my training yet, but I'm excited. But the key takeaways here are accuracy and efficiency, which will help increase transparency. So I think it's going to be good all the way around. And I really appreciate the work of these teams. You should be, just commended, applauded for your work, for the way you've transitioned and migrated everything.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yay. Thank you. All right, we'll now shift to our last information item, our bilingual programs update. Our presenter is the Director of Bilingual Migrant and ESL Services, Dr. Adams Molina. Thank you.
I was going to introduce myself, but thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. The purpose of this presentation is to report on required components outlined in Texas Education Code Chapter 29. We're going to look at the academic and English language proficiency progress of our emergent bilingual students. We're also going to see the number of students that have reclassified as English proficient, and then take a look at our comprehensive professional development plan. To start off with, I'd like to walk you guys through our bilingual programs here in the district. We have our transitional early exit program that's in grades pre-K through 6th grade on 13 campuses, and we serve over 1,800 emergent bilingual students in that particular program. We have our two-way dual language program in grades K through 6 on 4 campuses. It's at Henderson, Johnson, Crockett, and Jane Long Intermediate. We have 654 students in that program, of which 366 are emergent bilingual students. We have our English as a second language program, pre-K through 12th grade, predominantly in 6th through 12th grade, available on all campuses, and over 1,600 students in that program. Finally, we have our new arrival center on 4 campuses, and we serve over 180 students, recent arrivals, students identified as English language, limited English proficient. They qualify for this program if they've been in the country for less than a year. And we have students from Guatemala, Venezuela, Mexico, and Honduras. So when we're talking about the English language proficiency progress, we have the TELPAS test, the Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment System, that is an annual yearly progress of how our students are progressing, attaining the English language. It's an annual measure of English language acquisition. So it consists of 4 different domains. They're tested on their listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And this past year, the reading and writing were combined to an online assessment. Thank you. There are 4 proficiency levels when you're taking this assessment. There's beginner, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. This past year, 47% of our emergent bilingual students tested at advanced or advanced high with a composite score as compared to 54% in 2022. This slight decline can be contributed to looking at the combined nature of the reading and writing assessment, and the continued challenges with the speaking component of the assessment. With academic performance, we're using the STAR assessment data to report on that. When we're looking at reading and language arts, there was an increase in the number of students passing STAR in 5 out of the 8 assessments, and we had a slight decrease in 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 7th grade. For math, there was an increase in the percent of students passing in 5 out of the 7 assessments, again with a slight decrease in 2 grade levels. In science, we had an increase in 8th grade and biology with a slight decrease in 5th grade by 2%. And then in social studies, we had an increase in performance in both assessments. When we're looking at cohort data, when students move from one grade level to the next, we're looking at their longitudinal performance. So we looked at students in 21-22 and 22-23, and there was an increase in performance from our students moving from grade 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, English 1 and English 2. There was a slight decrease in students moving from 5th grade to 6th grade, and from 8th grade to English 1. For our math assessment, we can also look at cohort data for this particular one. There was an increase in cohort performance, again, from grades 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 7 to 8, 8th grade to Algebra 1. There was a decrease in grades 5 to 6 and 6 to 7.
May I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry to interrupt you. On the performance side, the percentages would be helpful to know. Are we increasing by 90% or increasing by 1%?
Absolutely.
Because I know you said that one decrease was 2%, which is nothing, so it would be nice to kind of.
Absolutely. When we're looking at the reading language arts, grade 3 to 4%, the increase was 12%, or excuse me, 9% from, looking at the cohort data, excuse me. From 3rd to 4th grade, it was 2%, 4th to 5th grade, 4th grade to 5th grade, 2%, 6 to 7 was 9%, 7 to 8 was 3%, and English 1 to English 2 was 15%. We have to keep in mind that there was a change in assessment, so any gains are absolutely amazing.
Right.
I think Dr. Ibarra refers to it as star 0.20, and it's amazing that our kids have progressed in light of the change to the assessment.
15% is a big jump. That's why I was curious. That's amazing.
Huge jump. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that some of the largest jumps you see are the kids that carry us on those, the ones that have been here the longest? Like those who went 3rd through 8th grade here in our program?
They have the strongest English language proficiency skills, absolutely. And that when we're preparing them for TELPAS, we're going to see that there's an alignment between the TELPAS and the new STAR assessment. There's significant overlap in what those assessments are testing our students on. Mm-hmm. Dr. Ward, did you want to? When we're looking at reclassification of emergent bilingual students to English proficient, there are 3 criteria that we look at. The first one is a student must score advanced high on each one of those language proficiency domains. Advanced high, remember, it's beginning, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. Also, they have to make a minimum of approaches on the STAR assessment and have a favorable teacher evaluation. This past year, we had 67 students reclassify as English proficient. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. At the state level, only 10% of the 4th grade students scored advanced high in speaking, and 5% of the 4th grade students at the state level scored advanced high in writing. So both of those domains are very challenging to our students, and that standard for reclassification is very high, and that's why we're still working on that with our students to reclassify as many as possible to really define the English proficiency.
Dr. Molina, if I might, one of the things we've talked about is obviously the changes to STAR from last year, from the prior year to last year, but also, as Dr. Molina has mentioned, the changes to TELPAS. A few years back, we came and discussed listening, speaking, going to a microphone and headset for children. as young as which grade? Second grade. So, and then this year they introduced typing for second grade up. So those are some pretty significant changes to how the students interact with the assessment. Those were previously assessed by the teacher in the classroom after they had gone through collaborative norming to make sure they were scoring it appropriately. But now that it's shifted to computerized testing, it has dropped across the state, as Dr. Molina mentioned, with only 5 and 10% hitting the marker of being able to be reclassified across the state. It shows there might be an issue with the assessment and how it's delivered. So those are some concerns, and that's one of the reasons, I know I'm stealing her thunder, and I apologize, Dr. Molina. That's one of the reasons why she was so adamant about looking at Summit K-12 that the board previously approved this fall, which was a larger purchase, but it's aligned to what the students are going to be doing on this test, because there's very few opportunities for a second grader to speak into a microphone and listen through a headset in everyday learning. It does happen, but it can be a challenge. Likewise, typing, making sure that time's in there. This software teaches the core content, as she mentioned. It's aligned to reading and language arts and their writing skills, but it does it also in a way that boosts their comfort level with that type of interface, so when they sit down to TELPAS, it's much more familiar to them. So I'm so sorry for stealing your thunder.
No, that is okay, because that's, we need to say that, mention that a couple times. So we're looking at resources. We have our Vista Higher Learning for our new arrival center, and then Summit K-12. So we are greatly appreciative of you helping us acquire this for our students. It's a software designed to increase English language acquisition, and as Dr. Ibarra said, it helps them with all 4 language domains. It gets that practice in there that is not very natural with us speaking into the microphone, and even having our second grade students typing in their responses for the writing component. So that additional practice is absolutely going to help them. And we talked to the campuses as well, that this particular program, it might have implications for the STAR assessment as well, again, because there's that close alignment to the TELPAS assessment and the STAR assessment. So we're going to be looking at that when we do our program evaluation to see if there's some impact with the STAR assessment as well. And we also have Sidlets, which we use some of their professional development materials with our teachers. We have Elevation, which is our compliance software. And then for professional development, we have our bilingual in ESL instructional coaches. We have district-wide collaboratives that take place after school. And then we have campus-specific PLCs where we actually go to the campus during the day and meet with teachers during their planning time so that they don't have to stay after school. We have classroom visits, which provide feedback to the teachers. And then this past year, we had 62 professional development opportunities with over 1,000 attendees. And we looked at the speaking domain of TELPAS, writing language objectives, and teacher certification trainings. Are there any additional questions?
I've got one back up on the, excuse me, the new arrival centers.
Yes.
And I cannot recall from previous years what the number was. Is that number, like right now we're showing 185 emergent bilingual students. Is that number increasing?
There's different times of the year when it increases, but that is pretty consistent for the past 3 years, looking at around between 150 and 200 students. But again, there's an influx of students right at this time of year, and then again in February. So it's a very fluid program. We have to adapt to it and look at, the numbers of students.
The reason I ask is more of a concern of, are we able to grow that? Do we have everything in place to grow that if we need to? Because if a student comes, obviously we want to take care of that student in the best manner that we can. And so if we have that at 4 campuses now, is it a program such that we can roll out at other locations if we need to, or grow larger if we need to, if there is an influx that's higher than what we've traditionally seen?
Right now at Jones campus, they serve our new arrival students from 2nd through 4th grade, and they're doing a phenomenal job. And we look closely at the ratios in those classrooms. We want 1 to 15 because some students come and they, we call them SIFE, where they have interrupted formal education, students with interrupted formal education, and some of them are not able to read or to write. So that very specific differentiated time and instruction with those students. But yes, we try to look at those ratios and then also staff accordingly to provide that environment, that successful environment, so that they can prosper and be successful in school. So yes. Mhm.
Dr. Ibarra, I'm going to tie this in to when we approve this.
Yes,
You were
sir.
going to work on a list of programs that, and how's
Yes,
that
sir.
coming along?
I believe it's been given to the board.
I put it in board notes.
Guess I didn't do my
several-
homework, did I?
I will share it,
I can
sir.
resurrect it. It was an attachment.
I didn't see
It was quite a
was a
lengthy
lot.
attachment.
Okay, well, I would have
To
looked
be
at
fair.
it, so I've been meaning to ask, and I thought I'll forget, so thank you for
No,
the
no
work on
worries
that.
at all. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, ma'am.
Again, thank you so much for your help and support with Summit K-12. We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have one question about, I know TELPAS changed and we're seeing, issues with that. From a developmentally appropriate perspective, has the state sought feedback on any of the, it feels unreasonable for me to ask second graders to have to type in responses. That's not a good indicator of their abilities.
I felt the same way, but I went back and I looked, and there are typing TEKS and Kinder. So they actually have Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for typing built in the lower grade levels. So if we're looking at adhering to the TEKS for that particular component, we're building that proficiency. But I completely agree. All the conferences I go to, it's a concern. One, when the listening and speaking joined together, when it's a combined assessment, that speaking into the microphone, students are shy, they're sitting next to each other. It's not, in my opinion, the ideal situation, but it is a federal requirement to have that annual yearly progress. And then with the writing, before it was holistically, or it was graded by the teachers, there were 4 writing samples collected. The teachers were calibrated on grading those, and they would therefore enter those scores that way. And now it's a writing response typed into the computer. So I completely understand, but we have to remember that at 3rd grade, there's a STAR writing component, and it's also typed in by the students. So
Yeah, that doesn't
Yeah.
make it right.
no, I completely, yeah.
I'll just go on record saying that I worry about our testing and whether it's developmentally appropriate
I
and a good indicator of what our students are learning. I go back to what problem are we trying to solve with this? Were there issues with the way teachers were doing those assessments? Were they inaccurate in scoring those? So we've moved to a completely different system that may penalize our children across the whole state, not just in Bryan ISD.
With the data that's come back from the state, the 5% of students scoring advanced high in 4th grade on writing is in the single digits. I think that speaks volumes to how students are reacting and performing to that particular assessment. And hopefully we'll see some adjustments if needed to that particular piece. But one thing that they have done for reclassification purposes, instead of having advanced high on all 4 domains for your they're looking at now a composite score. So you can actually have 3 advanced high and 1 advanced, and most likely that's going to be in writing. That would be my best guess. But they have made that adjustment for reclassification criteria, I think, in light of those 2 particular assessments in particular. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your work. Okay. We will now move to our items for discussion and our action and our consent agenda. And just as a reminder, typically we have a consent agenda and then a regular agenda. If we want to move something off consent, we can. And this time, we do not have a regular agenda. So there's just the consent agenda. So if we're okay with the items on the consent agenda, may I hear a motion to that effect?
Dr. Harlan, I move approval of all items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Gonzalez and seconded by Ms. Binford. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Consent agenda is approved. All right. The board will now convene in closed session to discuss the following items as allowed by Texas Government Code Chapter 551, .074, .0821, .071, and .129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 12:50 p.m. Board reconvened in open session at 2:25 p.m. No action was taken in closed session. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval of the appointment of Julie Harland as president, Felicia Benford as vice president, and David Stasny as secretary of the Bryan ISD Board Officers for 2024 as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved by Mr. McCall and seconded by Ms. Waller. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes, and we are now scheduled to adjourn. I do need Felicia and